The heart of America, Kansas City, known for its jazz, barbecue, and Midwestern charm, grapples with a disturbing truth. An off-duty police officer sworn to serve and protect is accused of crossing the very line he dedicated his life to upholding. This isn't just another news story, it's about shattered trust and a community questioning the badge that represents law and order. This is about Jason Moran, a 22-year veteran of the Kansas City Police Department, and the series of events that led to his downfall. The incident began with Jason Moran allegedly driving below the speed limit and stopping at a green light. 3 individuals in the car behind Moran decided to go around him, igniting a volatile chain of events. Moran, off-duty and driving his personal vehicle, allegedly pursued the other car to their apartment complex. Witnesses claim he then struck one of the individuals with his vehicle, transforming him from a law enforcement officer into an aggressor. Moran allegedly returned to the apartment complex, confronting the individuals while brandishing a firearm and hurling racial slurs. "22 years of service now tarnished by a single night of alleged terror. Moran's guilty plea to charges of assault and harassment deepens the sense of betrayal felt by the victims and the community. The court mandated Moran's resignation from the KCPD, the surrender of his police certification, and a prohibition against contacting the victims. His career, once a source of pride, is now a cautionary tale about the systems in place to hold law enforcement accountable." It was a Wednesday evening, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city. At the intersection of South 135th and State Line Road, life moved at its usual pace. Among the cars was a group of friends, their car a symbol of normalcy in the urban sprawl. They approached the intersection, the traffic light glowing green, but a black truck stood motionless in front of them. Growing impatient, they decided to navigate around the stationary vehicle, unaware this simple act would unravel the life of a decorated police officer. As they drove around the truck, they caught a glimpse of the driver, later identified as Jason Moran. Instead of continuing on his way, Moran allegedly took the maneuver personally and began to follow the car. The victims, sensing they were being followed, felt a growing unease. They pulled into their apartment complex, hoping to lose their pursuer. But Moran wasn't deterred. He followed them into the complex, parking his truck a short distance away. Witnesses say Moran exited his vehicle, his demeanor aggressive, his words slurred and his breath heavy with the smell of alcohol. He approached the group, his anger palpable, his presence intimidating. Whispers of the incident began to circulate among the residents of the complex, laced with fear and disbelief. A police officer, a guardian of their community, was now the source of their anxiety. One witness, a young woman, recounted the scene with trembling hands and tear-filled eyes. She described the fear that gripped her as she watched Moran allegedly strike one of the individuals in the face. Another resident spoke of the disbelief that washed over him as he witnessed the incident unfold. The incident cast a dark cloud over their lives, leaving them questioning the very fabric of their safety and security. The tension in the air was thick as witnesses watched from their windows. Jason Moran allegedly unleashed a torrent of verbal abuse, peppered with racial slurs at the individuals he had pursued. Screaming, yelling, using words I wouldn't repeat even in my darkest moments, a neighbor recounted. Moran, fueled by alcohol and a sense of misplaced authority, had become untethered from the very laws he was sworn to uphold. Witnesses described Moran allegedly shoving one of the individuals, a young man trying to de-escalate the situation. They had gone from a minor traffic inconvenience to victims of harassment and assault. Fear gripped the victims as they scrambled towards the safety of their apartment. Inside, they huddled together, debating their next move. Should they remain silent, hoping the officer would leave, or risk further enraging him by calling the police? The fear of what Moran might do if left unchecked outweighed any hesitation. With trembling hands, they dialed 911, their voices choked with emotion as they recounted the harrowing experience. The dispatcher, trained to recognize the sounds of terror, immediately relayed the escalating situation to the responding officers. Minutes later, the piercing wail of sirens sliced through the night. Two officers approached the apartment where the victims were huddled, listening intently as they recounted their harrowing encounter with Moran. The responding officers were faced with a situation that tested the very core of their profession. Here they were, tasked with investigating one of their own, a fellow officer accused of violating the very laws they had pledged to uphold. News of the incident spread like wildfire through the community, igniting a firestorm of emotions. The very people entrusted to protect and serve had become a source of terror, leaving residents feeling vulnerable. As the investigation unfolded, the community found itself caught in a state of agonizing limbo. The delay in justice only served to amplify the pain and frustration, leaving them feeling unheard, unseen, and utterly alone. The victims, shaken but determined to seek justice, believed the worst was over, but their ordeal was far from over. Moran returned to the scene, adding another layer of menace. One of the victims saw Moran's truck circling back into the complex. Fear propelled him to grab a baseball bat, a desperate attempt to protect himself and his friends. Moran, emboldened by alcohol-fueled rage, allegedly confronted the victims again, this time brandishing a handgun. According to court documents, Moran's finger was reportedly on the trigger, his words slurred, his face contorted in anger. Inside the apartment, the victims watched in horror as Moran allegedly pointed the gun at them. The 911 dispatcher, still on the line, could hear the victims' panicked voices pleading with Moran to put the weapon down. The dispatcher immediately relayed the escalating situation to the responding officers. What began as a routine disturbance call had morphed into a high-risk situation. The blue wall of silence, often criticized for protecting its own, crumbled under the weight of Moran's alleged actions. This time, justice, even for one of their own, would be served. The victims, emotionally drained and traumatized, were escorted out of the apartment by the responding officers. Their ordeal, though physically over, had left an indelible mark on their psyches. Despite the trauma, the victims found strength in their shared experience and the outpouring of support from their community. Neighbors, outraged by the incident, rallied around them, offering words of comfort and gestures of kindness. The community, shaken to its core, resolved to stand united against injustice. They demanded accountability from those sworn to protect them. The legal battle that followed Moran's arrest was swift and decisive. The weight of witness testimonies and the victims' harrowing accounts painted a damning picture of his alleged actions. Moran, facing the consequences, opted to strike a plea deal, pleading guilty to charges of assault and harassment. The charge of brandishing a firearm was dropped as part of the plea agreement, sparking debate within the community. The court imposed a series of conditions designed to hold Moran accountable and ensure the safety of the community. As part of his probation conditions, Moran was mandated to resign from the Kansas City Police Department. The badge he had worn for 22 years was now a painful reminder of his fall from grace. Moran was also ordered to surrender his police officer certification, ending his career in law enforcement. This revocation meant he could never again serve as a police officer in the state of Missouri. The badge and the uniform, symbols of authority and responsibility, do not offer immunity from accountability. The consequences of Moran's actions extended far beyond the borders of Missouri. His name and the details of his case were entered into a national database maintained by the FBI, a repository of information about law enforcement officers who have been decertified or have had their licenses revoked. This database, known as the National Decertification Index, serves as a critical tool for law enforcement agencies across the country. It helps prevent officers who have been deemed unfit for duty in one jurisdiction from simply crossing state lines and seeking employment in another. The NDI is a testament to the growing movement towards greater police accountability and transparency. It reflects a national recognition that police misconduct is not isolated to specific regions or departments, but is a systemic issue that demands a coordinated response. The incident involving Jason Moran, a decorated officer with 22 years of service, sent shockwaves through the Kansas City community and beyond. It served as a stark reminder that the men and women who wear the badge are not immune to the temptations of power, the corrosive influence of prejudice, or the devastating consequences of their actions. The very foundation of law enforcement rests upon the trust bestowed upon officers by the communities they serve. When that trust is shattered, as it was in this case, the damage runs deep. It erodes the legitimacy of law enforcement, fosters an atmosphere of fear and suspicion, and makes it infinitely harder for officers to do their jobs effectively. The incident has sparked a conversation, often uncomfortable but necessary, about the prevalence of implicit bias within law enforcement, the use of excessive force, and the systems that are meant to hold officers accountable for their actions. The victims in this case, thrust into a nightmare they never could have imagined, have spoken out about the lasting trauma they continue to endure. The fear, the humiliation, the violation of trust, these are scars that run deep and may never fully heal. Their experience is a stark reminder that the impact of police misconduct extends far beyond the immediate victims. It ripples through families, neighborhoods, and entire communities, leaving a trail of fear, distrust, and shattered faith in the very institutions designed to protect them. The incident has also brought to light the challenges faced by communities of color, who often bear the brunt of police brutality and racial profiling. The alleged use of racial slurs by Moran only serves to underscore the systemic racism that permeates many facets of American society, including law enforcement. Section 3. Seeking solutions, demanding accountability. In the wake of the incident, calls for police reform have grown louder, fueled by a growing recognition that the current system is failing to adequately address issues of excessive force, racial profiling, and a lack of accountability. Community leaders, activists, and concerned citizens are demanding change, urging for greater transparency, stricter use of force policies, and independent investigations into allegations of police misconduct. The call for body cameras, dash cameras, and other forms of documentation has gained traction, seen as a crucial step towards ensuring transparency and holding officers accountable for their actions. Section 1. The weight of the badge. The case of Jason Moran stands as a stark reminder of the immense responsibility that comes with wearing a badge. It underscores the delicate balance between authority and accountability, a balance that, when tipped, can have devastating consequences. The trust placed in law enforcement officers is not a given. It is earned through their actions, their commitment to justice, and their unwavering respect for the communities they serve. Moran's alleged actions, fueled by alcohol, anger, and a sense of entitlement, betrayed that trust in the most profound way. His case serves as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that the badge does not grant immunity from the law, nor does it excuse behavior that undermines the very principles it represents. The erosion of trust in law enforcement is not a problem confined to Kansas City. It is a national issue, one that demands a collective effort to address systemic issues, promote transparency, and rebuild bridges between law enforcement and the communities they serve. Section 2. Justice, Healing, and the Long Road Ahead. The legal system, though imperfect, played its part in holding Jason Moran accountable for his actions. His guilty plea, his resignation from the police force, and the permanent revocation of his police officer certification sent a clear message. Such behavior will not be tolerated, and those who violate the public trust will be held responsible. However, the pursuit of justice extends far beyond the courtroom. The victims in this case, forever marked by the trauma they endured, face a long and arduous journey of healing. The emotional scars of that night, the fear, the humiliation, the violation of trust, may never fully fade. The community too must grapple with the aftermath of this incident, working to rebuild trust in law enforcement, address underlying issues of racial bias, and create a safer, more just society for all. Section 3. A City's Resolve. The incident involving Jason Moran shook the city of Kansas City to its core, exposing vulnerabilities and igniting difficult conversations. Yet, amidst the pain and outrage, there is also a glimmer of hope, a sense of resolve to learn from this experience and emerge stronger. Community leaders, activists, and ordinary citizens are working tirelessly to address the root causes of police misconduct, advocating for policy changes, demanding accountability, and fostering dialogue between law enforcement and the communities they serve. The road ahead will be challenging, requiring patience, understanding, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. But the people of Kansas City, known for their resilience and their unwavering belief in the power of community, are determined to create a future where justice prevails, trust is restored, and every citizen feels safe and protected.